Get ready for a whole lot of laughs during this episode. Today on the podcast, we sat down with Jenny Mack, the CEO and founder of Elopements is Fun, and she breaks down for us how the power of listening can have a major impact on your business. In this episode, Jenny shares with us key insights on how we can become better listeners and how we can leverage that in our business. This episode is packed with so many good, tangible tips and funny stories Jenny shares about her entrepreneurial journey that I cannot wait for you to hear. So let's get into the episode. Hello, Jennifer. How are we doing?
Good, Akua. It's great to see you.
Great to see you as well. I'm looking forward to this conversation because, what I heard through the grapevine is that you're a good time. So we're going to have a good time during this episode, okay?
Same, exactly.
I want to kick things off because I feel like, have a very unique business. And I'm assuming that from the pandemic shaped that. But I just want to hear from you of when was that moment for you? Walk us through that journey of when you had this moment of elopement, helping couples elope in New York, this is it. This is what I want to hone in on. What was that process like for you?
So we've been in the elopement game for a while. Before pandemic. I mean, I totally agree. Pandemic really changed the landscape of, weddings and a lot of other things in general. But, kind of where my elopement journey started was, so I'm a photographer. I started Eloping is Fun, which is a full service elopement packages company. I mean, that's not the sexiest way to describe it, but that's what it is. So we do photography, officiant, and planning. So I started it as a photographer. I started my kind of life and career as a photographer in New York City, doing editorial and photojournalism in the 2000s. So I was doing that. And, a few years into that, I discovered weddings. A lot of the photo editors and art directors that I was working with just kind of asked me hey, we love your work and you've got this really fun personality. Would you like to photograph my wedding? And I'm sure, I'll give it a shot. I'll try it. And once I did, it really clicked. I really was okay, this is my thing. This is a lot of fun. I can do a lot here. I can, create a lot. So I started doing weddings, and early on in that, my wedding photography business, I started to come across couples who wanted to elope. So that's when it started. So we started Eloping is Fun 12 years ago. So we were kind of elopement pioneers,
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I will say, yes, the pandemic and eloping, I mean, we are in a boom time for elopements now, which I'm really happy about for people out there who are getting married. Of course, that there's more options for them.
Absolutely. I love how I think you're a testament to because you guys have been doing this for 12 years. And of course you knew that there was a need, but I think it just goes to show that to really lean into what it is that you want to do. And even if you're the only one that's doing it, because your time is going to come, right? Obviously you had a very successful business before, and then the pandemic hit and really just shifted a lot of things where you became that go-to person. And I think that just speaks to the fact of honing in on your craft, doing what you love, and leaning in, even if you don't see even though what you're doing is totally different from what everybody else is doing. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really fun. And it's so true. You totally said it, believing, doing what you want to do and believing in what you want to do, you'll always get there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not it was just me. It's I was seeing that there were clients, there were couples out there who didn't want this traditional wedding mold. Mm-hmm. And I was okay, what can we do? Let's explore that. Let's see what we can do with that, So I honestly really attribute Eloping is Fun to these clients who are reaching out to me and finding Jenny and being wow, your wedding photography. It's like not like this other stuff that we've seen. It's a little more like edgy and fun and punky. And I'm like, you got it, you know? So
Yes.
that was kind of where it all started, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I feel like that's a really good segue into, just really talking about the power of listening. And, I think all of us naturally as human beings, we're like, yeah, like I listen, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's ways that we can really improve. And so for you who've been 12 years into the game, how has listening really shaped your business? Where are those moments where, really listening, whether that is to clients or industry or however, has really paid off for you?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I love talking about this because I do feel, I always say, like, when I kind of break it down, I say, like, my entrepreneurial superpower is listening, because it's like the whole eloping thing. Like, when I did start it, it was, there was just a couple people kind of coming and being like, yeah, we want to do something different. And so I did start off, eloping is usually associated with, City Hall, which of course, like what we're doing is bringing eloping out of City Hall. No offense to City Hall. San Francisco, I hear, has a nice one, but as far as New York, you can skip it. We'll take you much better places. So, just watching couples through this journey. And, we started off at City Hall and doing elopements there. And I could see that there was just frustration there because people, didn't want to do the crazy wedding thing. Because weddings, let's be honest, have gotten a bit out of control. I mean, if you want to do that, you know what you're getting into and have fun, like if you don't want to do that, there needs to be these other options. So, I would see couples kind of struggling with the whole, City Hall setup. And that's when I decided to kind of bring in officiants. Like, okay, let's do this outside of City Hall, like let's make this whole thing like just super easy and inclusive because that's what people were looking for. They wanted to get married and they wanted it to be easy. So I was just kind of just always getting that feedback from people and seeing like what is in my power to be able to kind of serve people where they're at. And that's kind of where it all came together. And it's obviously been going strong for a while and it's still evolving because now, as you mentioned in the beginning, pandemic kind of elopements blew up. And I think now what I'm seeing is that, people know that's like a very viable option, but people still want a bit of the wedding. So we're in this whole like micro wedding / destination wedding time. So we've started to really focus on that and really help couples, have this really kind of seamless, easy experience in New York City, that's a little more in depth than just like a quickie elopement, So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like one example. And yeah, I mean, you just always have to be listening, to like yourself, to your clients, to, the world around you.
And I just love that though, because you have evolved, like even since the pandemic, you're like, okay, pandemic elopements took off, but now we're noticing that people want a little bit more than elopements. Okay, so then how can we adjust our offers, our packages, what it is? And so I think that's a very powerful thing. And I think a lot business owners, we don't do it enough. I think a lot of times we take the feedback and, which I think is helpful and we can absolutely make a couple corrections, but I think sometimes it requires a big pivot. And I think sometimes we don't do that because we're afraid of how things are going to turn out. But it's like, if people are already asking for it, just do it. And again, it's an experimentation. Yeah. So if it doesn't work out, you adjust, you figure out. Yeah. Like that's truly what it is about entrepreneurship. And so I love that you're like, okay, things are now looking a lot different than what I thought they were going to be, but we're going to adjust and make it work because what matters is how you're serving the people that you're serving. And I think that's just such a good testament. And I do believe that listening truly is a skill, because I think a lot of us, I think just as humans in general, many of us listen to respond. When we're listening,
Mhm.
like there's ego involved, and we usually feel like, okay, like if we are given feedback in any type of capacity, it's natural to get defensive and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so, where do you see business owners unintentionally failing at listening, essentially, when it comes to clients, whether industry or like peers?
I mean, I think that like as you were talking, I like love this conversation. I think it's so
Yeah.
great to have these conversations. As you were talking, it reminds me of there's like this Buddhist saying, beginner's mind, where there's always these like stories of this like amazing, meditator and master and sage who like reaches this point and then he just gets knocked down, and you remember, oh
Mhm.
yeah, beginner's minds. Like, entrepreneurs are always kind of riding these waves, like we do
Mhm.
something, it works, there's success, or we do something and like it didn't click and we have to hang out there for a little bit and keep,
Mhm.
keep figuring it out. But I think that, what comes to mind for me is like that beginner's mind, that like humility of knowing that, you can be, the authority and the expert, but you're only that by listening to your clients and listening
Mhm.
to like the market. Otherwise, you're nothing. Like the second you think that like you just know it all, it's just it's you're gonna hit a wall because things are always changing. Things are changing really rapidly, like in our lifetime.
Mhm.
Marketing's changing, like the tools are changing, everything. Like what we're capable of business owners is just kind of it's amazing. It's really
Mhm.
profound and really immense, so yeah, just kind of like humility and just remembering, just like go back to where you started and just,
Absolutely. I love that. And I think again that's perfect. Like humility. Like it is a very humbling experience, of starting something new, of being bad at something. And I think
yeah.
even for me, I had to be humbled, like, oh, when was it? Like over like almost 2 years ago. Like it starts to show up in your business when you're not growing in specific ways, right? Or you're not serving the right people that you want to serve. And
Yeah.
I think a part of that too was for me because I truly wasn't listening to the market, the people, right? Like I felt like, again, it was a little bit more ego driven. And then
Hmm.
I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something completely out of my realm that's like brand new, not even just in business, just in life in general. And I started taking pottery classes and I was so bad at it. And it was just such a good reminder as a business owner, like that is the beauty of it. And like, that's the, it was an amazing, it was humbling to learn something new, to be that student. And it's like now I just continuously carry that with me. It's like you're truly never done learning as a business owner. And even when somebody asks me
Never.
something, even if it's a potential client, like I'll say, look, I don't have the answer today, but I can definitely find out. Or like
Yeah.
it's okay to ask for help because there is going to be
Yeah.
somebody who knows more than you. Right. And
Yeah.
you know that saying where it's like, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room. And like now
Yes.
I do
Yes. I
try
love
to look
that.
that way. Yeah, it's so true. And especially as you continue to evolve in your business, your clients start to change and like everything changes. And to your point, even the way that we do business, tools are changing, right? The rise of AI is here and that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not saying like if you're not comfortable fully adopting, fine, but like figure out some other ways, like figure out little small things that you can do. Right. It's everything. Everything is
Hmm.
changing. And so like listening, slowing down,
Hmm.
listening, take in what works for you, right? You don't have to take in everything. Just
Hmm.
take what you need and apply it, right? And
Yeah.
so I love that. And it's all about humility. It
Yeah.
truly truly is.
Yeah, it's like I feel like humility is not something that a lot of business people talk about. Like I don't hear that in like, it's all
Mhm.
about like confidence and ego. Yeah, of course, that's part of it, but also, knowing, of course, like having these conversations um and showing that, we're all just working very hard. I mean, that's the hallmark of an entrepreneur. It's just like always working, always growing,
Mhm.
always like aligning yourself with your passions and your strengths. And like you said too, taking stuff in, but not everything. You know what I mean? Because there are
Mm-hmm.
certain things that you as an entrepreneur are going to be really great at, and really kind of feed you and really keep you going. There are going to be other things that, you're going to need help. You're going to need like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
guidance. You're going to need support, figuring out what those things are again. And that kind of goes to burnout, which I know is like another one of these hot topics, knowing when to ask for help and you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like setting
Mm-hmm.
yourself up for
Absolutely.
that so that your business can grow. Cause like your business is your baby. And it's kind of amazing to watch it like over these years. It's funny, like I have two daughters. I have a 6-year-old and 11-year-old. And my business has been around since before the kids, but it's like it's all the same. It's like watching them evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Like businesses do in a way, like if you set it up right, take on a life of their own, because like if your
Yes. Mm-hmm.
business is also really built with that intention of like who you are and like what you want to put out in the world, which again is something always, I've always had with eloping is fun, like what do I
Mm-hmm.
believe in and what do I, listening to myself too, you know what I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
full circle. It's not, like what are the things that I want to do? And that helps like align me and like keep me going in this like, just never ending life of being an entrepreneur,
Yeah, but I love that though, because I do think that, even as we've been talking about listening, it's like also alignment, right?
Yeah.
Because you matter too in the process. And I love that of like, you were like, okay, elopement is fun. This is aligned to me. I love this. Um, but you're still changing it, but the core is
Yeah.
still what you're passionate about, right? Like, and that's something I think is such a good thing, because especially as you are in your business, whatever stage, especially if you're going into unfamiliar territory, it can be
Yeah.
easy to go in a direction, but it's like you have to be really just grounded in your values and like truly your core, because then you can evolve, but the values are the same, like what you believe in your heart and is the same. And so like it's just different variations of it. And so
Yeah.
that's what I love. That's just such a good reminder. And I think again, it's a really good reflection of just the crazy but beautiful and hard journey of entrepreneurship that I just love. And
Yeah.
really something I'm really curious about is, I have been really learning this in the past year is not even the past year, just like a couple. Well, yeah, I think it's been heightened more the past year of, when people are saying things, you got to read between the lines because they're
Mm-hmm.
not saying it. You know what I mean? Like that's something I have
Yeah.
like have seen very much so. Like you're telling me this, but there's a deeper thing that you're not telling. Like this is actually what you're really telling me. And
Yeah.
so for you, if you've encountered clients like that, how do you read between those lines, right? To where like you're actually giving them what they want. Like I think sometimes of like designers, right? When they have to submit their feedback and people are like, yeah, but they're not saying
Yeah.
what they really are thinking. So then you got to read between the lines. You know what I mean? I think that's like,
Yeah.
it's because some people, right? Some people don't do well with confrontation. Some
Yeah.
clients don't. Like I think this is again, and this is just in general. So how do you do that? Have you ever had a client like that or an experience like that? And how did you handle it?
Yeah, no, this is a really good topic too. This is another topic that I think a lot about. So we have a team, right? So I founded Eloping is Fun, but there's a team that kind of carries out this vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all really have to be aligned all the time about our process, our customer journey, how we deliver our promises to our client and I guess, how we stay like in charge, like how we stay in charge,
Mm-hmm.
but still getting feedback from them. Yeah. This in where, if you're in the service industry, this is always something that you're working on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think for us, like I, this is something we work on a lot because it's really important.
Yeah.
Like weddings are something so personal,
Mm-hmm.
and we really want to give people, like this dream, of what it is. And, dream means different things for a lot of different people. A lot of our clients' dream is for it to just be fun and nice and not, stressful. So we do everything we can to kind of get them there. But, I think when it comes to what, like the point you bring up, I think from the beginning, if you're just really on top of things and, confident in what but still listening, I feel like it keeps that, it gives the clients that trust in you, and you kind of maintain that authority to kind of move things along. I mean, of course, we have clients sometimes who are asking for things that we just don't think are like possible or reasonable. And honestly, my approach as a New Yorker and someone who's been doing this for a really long time is just be really honest with them, super honest, whether they like it or not. And always, like I always say, our process is giving them all the information and empowering them to ultimately make the choices. I mean, we want them to make the choices that we think are going to be the best for them, and they usually do. And if they don't make those choices, we tell them, all the things that can happen from that choice. Like we do a lot of kind of edgy things. Like we do these elopements at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, right? Which is not technically allowed. So we, I mean, can you imagine? Like, sure, I'm going to get married at the Met. So the couples that do that, we have a process and we vet them and we let them know all the, things that might happen. And they get to choose, like, hey, if we're going to do this, we could get, asked to leave or move
or arrested. I'm like, for trespassing. I'm just kidding.
We've come close to being arrested a few times.
And you want to know what? I would be like, okay. I would do it.
Take me away. Got arrested. I'm like, say
less. That's where I'm going to be spending my honeymoon, right? Like,
I know. Well, you'll have a lot of good company in New York City jail right now. Anyway, let's not
Plenty to talk about. Plenty to talk about.
Exactly. Oh my God. So funny.
Yeah, no, I think I love that. And I think too, like something that just popped into me the other day, because I'm doing a beta round for my Storytelling for Creatives course, because I'm launching my new course, the hard launch in March. And somebody said this to me, and this just popped into my head of like, okay, you really do create like a safe space to where like I feel like I can be very honest. And I think even too, like I love what you're saying, like what you do is that you communicate, right? Communicate expectations early and right. And I think, and that's so key and so valuable. And I think even to add to that is, what are some ways that you can make it safe for your clients to where like they don't, like they can just be honest as possible. I think that because it just leads to such a great relationship and such a great experience, even if they don't necessarily, right? Even if you create something they're like, they don't feel, because you want to give them a product that they feel good about. So, but sometimes too, people are like, well, I don't want to be mean and this and that. So, how do we like, I think that's a good thing of like, how do you create that safe space? Like thinking of that, of like, what are some small details that you can really do to make people feel relaxed and seen and valued so that they do feel empowered to share their thoughts. So even just to add to that. So I love that.
Absolutely, because also kind of with what we do, it's like it's not about the end product. It's the end product, the end result, which is like being married. It's about the entire process. It's like everything that happened up until that day is really going to contribute to like how you're going to experience that day. And I mean, I just think honestly, I believe in just being really honest about things up front. Even in like my sales calls with people, sometimes I'm like, hey, just please, like, let me know anything that's on your mind, so that we can start developing this relationship. You know what I mean? Of trust and listening. And people are always really relieved when you give them a very honest answer. I don't think anyone should ever be afraid of sharing that, but also sharing it in a way like this empathetic way where it's like, okay, I'm not cutting you off because of that. Like, I'm not cutting off that idea. Maybe there's something behind that. It's just not being expressed in the way that makes sense right now. We'll still get to the bottom of it. You know, this all sounds very kind of fluffy, but I think you and I know what we're talking about, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you know, and I say this too with like our planning guru, Becca, who's amazing. She's like the real engine behind Eloping is Fun. She's the one, every single minor detail you can imagine, like Becca's there. I mean, Becca, more than anyone, is someone who really loves to serve, who like has hospitality in her bones. That's why when I met her, she reached out to me. She wanted to work for us. She actually worked for one of our competitors and, you know, and wanted to
Love
work for
that.
us. And I'm like, yeah, we can make that
Yeah.
happen. And she just loves serving. And when she comes up with this, because I have to coach her through things sometimes where she's afraid, like clients are asking something, she doesn't know what to say, with how to say no or this or that. My secret is just keep asking them questions before you give them an answer. Keep asking them questions, and then you'll find out what the real need is there before you jump and make never make assumptions. Also dealing with your clients, like never, just ask and clarify. Once you get to that, it's just clear to both of you, and then you can move forward from that point, you know?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that. Yes, don't be afraid to ask those follow-up questions. I did not create this, but I think of that 5 why technique. Like, I don't know who created it, but it's something that I will practice and even teach people of, like,
Yeah.
especially like when you're trying to figure out who it is that you're wanting to serve, like your target audience.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's always a deeper reason why people are coming to work with you. And people, I think as business owners, we forget that. Like, somebody that's
Yeah.
coming to me, they're like, yeah, I want to learn to share my story. Okay, but why? Right. And then I keep asking, like, why?
Yes.
Until you
Yes.
get down to the core reason of why
Yes.
they truly came to me. Like, so even for example, if you're like a system strategist, they're like, okay, well, I would like to create more systems in my business. Okay, why? Well, to make more money. Okay, well,
Yeah.
why? So that I can have more time and freedom. Okay,
Yeah.
well, why? So that I can spend time with my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just keeps going down until you find the real core reason as to why somebody wants to work with you. And that's just like that perfect example
Yeah.
of, even to, like, if you're having that relationship with the client, like, don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions, because you're going to get to the real, because sometimes they don't even realize what the real issue is
No.
until you have gone back and peeled all of those layers.
Yep.
So I love that. That is just such a good reminder for us to consistently be doing that, because every time then somebody's coming to you with something, there's always a deeper reason to it.
You can never go wrong. You could never mess it up if you keep asking questions. But if you make an assumption, there's a possibility that you get it wrong, you know, and you haven't created that space to be able to really connect with your clients on a level where you're having like a really honest relationship and communication, and you're really ready to create something together. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like create something really powerful together. So I could tell you're good at it because you just did it with me. You know what I mean? I'm like, ask me these questions, and I'm like,
I just am so nosy. I'm like, I'm gonna find out everything about everybody. Okay, if you're coming here, I'm gonna be in your business. So that's
exactly. People, it's a real. It's really beautiful. It's just really beautiful to like have time, because, you know, life is a lot of like go, and you know what I mean? Like when you're starting these relationships with your clients, or do you know what I mean? Like looking internally with yourself as like, you know, your business owner, kind of entrepreneur, looking in the mirror, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? It's like you have to just slow down and stop and ask these questions, you know?
Yes. Oh, I love that. And now, you know, because you've been in the game for 12 years. And so I would love to know from you is, what are you working through now as a business owner, like as an entrepreneur? You know, especially like I said, you've been in it for 12 years. And so like you're in this current season. What is like something that you're working through as a business owner?
Okay, I'll tell you. What I'm working through, what I love about being an entrepreneur is that this is like a vehicle and a tool for, how do I say this? I should have practiced this, because like I do want to say this. Like, for just myself and like my
Mhm.
passions and like the things that I want to work on. I think right now where I am in my life personally and with my
Mhm.
business is, like I said, Eloping is Fun has been around for a minute. And we've created something. And I love what we've created. I love the community. I love my clients. I love my team. What is important for me right now is seeing where else that can go. Do you know what I mean? I feel like at
Mhm.
times I haven't set things up for it to grow as much as it could. It's funny, as a business owner, I've not always had that mindset, like that grow. Just more kind of
Yeah.
like let's enjoy, let's just kind of let's just take this at a pace, and I feel like now that's something I want to try. So we have a few things set up for this year to kind of test this out. We're going to do some pop-ups in some other cities. And I'm really just excited. I
Oh.
know I'm really excited about that. I'm doing the first kind of trial run in January. I'm not going to say where yet, but I think it'll be really cool. And I think kind of what we've done will translate to other cities. And for me, the motivation behind doing it is like that really strong belief in like what we've built and created, and also the community that it supports. Like Eloping is Fun is like this also, like, on the business side, it's this community of like creatives and freelancers and entrepreneurs and artists and hustlers, like, and it's just really fun to be able to give people the opportunity to do this work. Like when my
Yeah.
favorite, like, official, well, I shouldn't say this. You're not supposed to have favorites, but uh, one of our officiants is like this accordion player, this
Oh.
and he's like this amazing artist, musician. And I reached out to him. He was one of the first people I reached out to because I knew who he was in New York. Like, he's kind of like a legend. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
how would you feel about officiating? Don't worry, like, I'll train you, I'll get you there, we'll do it. And he's like, yeah, sounds good. And it's just fun. Like, everyone that we work with has these other kind of creative pursuits, and they have Eloping is Fun, which is something that they really love doing. So, yeah, I'm just going to try and expand it a bit more, like I've not done before. So we'll see. We'll see. It's
That
exciting. It's
is
scary and exciting.
It's exciting, scary, but amazing, brave. You know what I mean? And I think that is like, I'm excited for you. And I think, again, it just goes to show, as like, doesn't matter how long you've been in business, whether for a year or, 10, 12, 15, you always are starting over at some point. Always. And so,
Always.
again, like, really leaning, being humble, being open to learn, experiment, and just seeing how things go.
Yeah.
But like, obviously you're putting strategy behind it, which is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're okay, like, now I've been doing this, but now let's add a little bit of strategy to this. Like, let's add some
Yeah.
strategy, but also too, let's keep things at the core of like who I am and making sure that things are aligned. And so I think that's amazing. And I'm so excited for you to figure that out, what that whole thing looks like for 2025.
Yes. Very excited. We'll
So
definitely keep you posted.
please, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this question popped in my head right away, especially since
Mm.
you are out here creating potential felons, but getting people arrested.
You.
What is the craziest request you have ever done? I want to know.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So, keeping it with the theme of breaking the law. Okay. Because I like to test the
We like
limit,
to live on the edge.
see what's possible. Um, well, actually, so it's funny. Actually, one of our first elopements. So this before, like, I officially started Eloping as Fun, but we were just kind of testing out the waters of like doing elopements, having an officiate. So there was a couple that came in from Los Angeles, and they wanted to have a New Orleans style brass band. um,
Ooh.
walk them over the Brooklyn Bridge and do the ceremony on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm like, yes, let's do this. I'm like, there was no way to know if we were going to get arrested or not. I'm like, we just have to do this and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we did, because technically by the books, but by the books is so boring, is like, if you're going to gather more than 20 people, you need a permit. It's like, really? I don't know if you
Yes.
know, sorry, this is just a side thing, but this is an important side thing. Have you seen on Instagram, there was just the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest in New York?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
you need to know the story behind that, because the guy who did it is a genius. He's my hero. It was huge. I remember seeing the signs everywhere, like Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. I'm like, oh, this looks like fun. I didn't end up going, but it was huge. Timothy Chalamet showed up, and he didn't get a permit. And I think, like, I just read an article, they interviewed him. He's like, yeah, to get a permit was like too much work. It's better to just do it and see what happens. And it worked out for him. It worked out for him. So anyway, so we did this wedding on the Brooklyn Bridge with this marching band, and the whole time I was like sweating, but then I got to a point where I'm like, we're fine. Do you know what I mean? We're totally fine. Like
Yes.
There's just too much joy here for this to be cracked down on. Like, and then I got like really into it. There's actually a picture of me someone took. So the Brooklyn Bridge, I actually climbed on top of like one of these kind of, platform things, so I could like take a really cool photo of them all coming down. And
Love
someone
that.
like took a photo of me, and I didn't even realize I was just so in the moment and felt so alive. I'm like, this is so much fun. So yeah,
Oh
that was, I thought we could get arrested, but so far we have not.
my gosh.
Although
You know what I think of this? You know what I think of the saying? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
not permission. Yeah, of course. If you got to ask for permission,
yeah.
you
Like
got to
I don't remember.
around.
It's like. Yeah, I can't remember the exact saying or something like that. Like, it's better,
Yeah.
like, yeah. But either way, I'm like, that's like a perfect example of it. And so even like for me thinking, I've never been like a big like word person for 2025. I've never been that way. Like for every year, like I've never ever think of like a word. I just do my thing. But this year I was like, I'm going to have a word, because one of my friends, Michael Tetzinetti, he was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he has the audacity. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have the audacity for 2025. I'm not asking for permission for nothing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Now, where that may end up, I don't know. We're just going to see. I'm not saying I'm going to be out here getting arrested, but you never know. I don't know what's going to happen. All I'm saying is I'm going to arrested. We don't recommend it, right? Like, don't do that stuff. But like, you know what I mean? But everything else, like just with life in general, I'm going to have the audacity. With my business, I'm going to have the audacity. I'm going to make the ask. I'm going to pitch, a brand that I would love, you know what I mean? Just doing it. Don't wait for permission, like at all. And so like that was for me. And I think that's like,
that's what an entrepreneur is. And that is what an entrepreneur is, is having that audacity. I mean, you wouldn't be crazy enough to be like, I'm just going to sit, sail in the sea and see where, I mean, it's crazy that there's just audacity at the core of it. You know what I mean? Yes. But like owning it and really going with it, like, then I am very excited to see that. I think that's awesome. Being like wearing it.
I think that's what it is. I think we need to wear it, because I think, okay, it takes audacity to start a business, right? Yes. But then when you're in it, then all of a sudden I always say all the time, like we always want to start a business to like stand out. We want to do our own thing. And then sometimes when we get into it, we see what everybody else is doing, and then we try to blend in. And it's like, that is not the whole purpose of why you started your own business in the first place, right? Because then we let comparison creep up, and like, am I doing things the right way and stuff like that? And you know what I mean? And so then
the right way is your way.
The right way is your way. And I think it's easy to forget that audacity that's already in you. Like you just got to find it. Right. And I think for me, that's what my year's going to be, is exploring what that audacity looks like. Like, it's like, so absolutely. I'm really excited. But that story too at the Brooklyn Bridge, like that's what it is. Like, you didn't wait for permission. You're like, let's just do it. Let's see how it goes. And I think that's just, amazing. And I love that. So thank you so much for sharing. This has been an amazing conversation. And so a question that I want to ask you is, that we always end it with, is what do you think is the biggest differentiator between the businesses that succeed and the ones that fail?
Oh my God, this is a great question. I think that, passion, I think if you lose your passion for something, you're just going down a path where it's just going to peter out. I mean, I think if you have that passion and, have the purpose, like you can't go wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like you will keep finding a way, because being an entrepreneur is always about the continuing to find a way, like adapting to the changing world, adapting to, you know what I mean, what you've learned and like where you want to go. And, it's an exercise that I do a lot, is like always going back to my why. Like if I ever get lost or off track, and when you're lost and off track, like you just feel it, you're like, it's not working right now. It's like, you just come back to like, what am I doing? Why am I doing? I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it. And I'm so, like, I'm so grateful that I have it, and I have a track record of, it's worked before, and you know what I mean? I can continue to make it work.
I have loved this conversation. It has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Jenny, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And for those that want to connect with you, how can we support you? How can we find you?
So if you know anyone that's getting married, tell them to look us up now. You can find me.
Yes.
Yeah, of course there's that.
Yes.
I think the funny thing too, there's still a lot of people who like find us and are like, oh my God, you exist. Like, you're exactly what I want. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, tell everybody,
I'm like, how are you going to come on this show and be like, no, maybe not? I was like, yes, people. Absolutely.
I'm like, you're getting married? Like, tell Jenny, eloping is fun.
Yes.
1-800-eloping is fun. Well, you can find me on Instagram. We're trying to have fun there and just be silly and just spread the gospel of, you know what I mean? Stress-free, fun weddings. I'm on TikTok. I'm figuring that out. Don't judge. And, elopingisfun.com. That's me. That's where you can find us. So, my little fun earrings.
Oh, I love
I really
love that
swag. You should see, like, I think of like random swag that we could do. I'm like, let's do it. Let's make it.
Yes. So. I think that's just, again, that's like the quirks of your business and what makes you you. And like, I love that. And that's just a reminder again of business owners, just lean into who you are, your quirks, your personality, like it's going to pay off. And so I have absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you again so much, Jenny. And for everybody listening, until next time.